Roger, G3IUZ, I saw you earlier. Be good to have you on after that, please. Then I have Noel GTZ, who promised to be here. Bernie G4HJW, Nigel 2E0EHH, Gareth G4XAT, and a returner, Colin G4EML. Good to see you coming on, Colin. So that will be the order. Please pipe up on the chat if there's anybody else that I have missed. Just wait till 8 o'clock before starting properly. Okay, the only announcement for tonight is we've been busy putting together another CQTV, so you should see that arrive by email during the next couple of days. It should go to the printers, so it'll be on your doormat in a week or two. That's been the major activity. I'll cover what I've been doing personally when it comes to my over at the end. So the order again: G0MJW to start, GW4KZ Brian, GI4DOH Richard, G3IUZ Roger, Noel GTZ, Bernie G4HJW, 2E0EHH Nigel, Gareth G4XAT, and Colin G4EML. So without further ado, round to Mike, G0MJW to take it, G8GKQ.
Okay, oops, wrong camera, sorry about that, getting ahead of myself there. Hopefully this is working. If not, hard luck. Right, so not a lot to report this week apart from what I've been doing over the weekend perhaps, so maybe I'll concentrate on that for the first over and see what other people say for the next over. Hopefully you're getting a reasonable picture. It looks good on my monitor back here, and there seems to be sound, and I can't see any complaints on the chat, so let's get on with it. First thing, sick hacker. Don't know if Martin's about, but
July the 20th from the desert in Texas.
No, it works.
BBC News.
But you switch it on, and after a while the audio disappears, so I suspect a capacitor or something I need to fix. So that's another job to do. Right, okay. The other thing is what's on the bench. So back to the trademarked bench camera. This is the 10 megahertz amplifier that I've built up, or what I've built up. And it uses an MRF 300, and the idea is to use it on 10 meters with DVB-T for sporadic E. So what you can see on that bench is an empty tin of Altoids mints for scale, a MRF 300 pallet, one of the NXP ones, a driver amplifier, and the 2 meter to 10 meter transverter, which is also being designed. What I will show you on the next screen, hopefully, is this, which is the spectrum analyzer plot. So I'll just go back to the main camera so you can see what I'm up to, because I need to point out a few things probably. There's a power supply here which I'm about to turn on. Turned on. Here we have a power meter. And here we have, well, you know what that is, don't you? It's the Potsdam 2020. So, back to the spectrum analyzer, and once it managed to sync, hopefully, that's what's coming out of it at the moment. Now that's not particularly clean, and the reason it's not particularly clean is because I'm probably driving it a little bit too much. So I'm getting out at the moment, so let's go, yeah, let's see. The bench camera is still on, so look up in the top corner, you should be able to see, if I point this right, that should show you the output power. It's a 500 watt slug, which is only about 60 watts. Drive power is very, very low. It's what, 100 milliwatts or something like that. Don't know. It's being driven by the port sound, of course. Just sending the test card, and everything seems quite happy. I had to bend one of the capacitors, one of the inductors a little bit. And here's my USB fan, which is providing the cooling, and it seems to be adequate. It's just sitting on there. It's not properly done, but good enough, I think. At least it's not caught fire yet, anyway. Right, so that's what we're doing, and that's what we've been doing, and seems to be quite happy. Unfortunately, I can't adjust the power, but I can tell you it's taking 48 volts at about 2.7 amps. So that's what it needs to operate. I'll go and turn it off now, just to make sure it doesn't melt. So as you can see, it's disappeared. So as long as we don't worry too much about the spectrum, that's okay. It gets a lot cleaner when you do it with DVB-T, DVS rather. As you'd expect, you get more power out. And I don't think 60 watts is realistic, but 30 watts is, with pretty good shoulders. A bit more experimentation to do regarding levels and things. And incidentally, that was coming from the Pluto, not from the Lime. So well done, Dave. Right, sorry, I went on for far too long. It's over to Brian, isn't it? So, Brian, GW4KAZ, G0MJW.
Well, okay. Fine. It looks as if I'm getting in. All right, good evening to you all. And thanks for letting me in. I had a bit of a mishap last week. As Dave was saying, I didn't have enough power. So I've been playing about with my Andrews linear amplifier over the week, and now I'm getting enough power. So yeah, nice to be on the net. I think probably for the first time successfully. I've been here with a few test cards and what have you, but not had a chat. Anyway, interesting on your 10 meter project. That sounds good. It's something that we may get into at one day, but at the moment I'm quite pleased to be getting up on 2.4 gigs to the satellite with my homemade up converter, my 1.2 meter dish with a homemade helical, and the express here in the shack. The dish is 50 meters from the operating position here. So I'm using 77s and the amplifier and the up converter is at the base of the dish. So brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for letting me in. And looking at my own signal coming back, it's a bit pixelated, I think. But not sure what the reason for that is. Anyway, I won't hold it. I'm glad to got in, and I'm sorry to say. Okay. Oh, GI4 Delta Oscar Hotel next, I understand. Okay, GW4KAZ. Now,
GW4KAZ with the group GI4DOH. Just checking on, seem to be coming through okay. I'm just checking out the power. Yep, evening all, and yes, a better signal from you there, Brian, than last time. No trouble at all getting you with that. Don't think they changed one or two things here. Actually, using a different amplifier this week. This is the original ex-UMTS amplifier that I got. It didn't have a heatsink on it, so when the other type popped up on eBay, complete with heatsink, I went straight for that, and because that was a sort of one-stop solution, I got it working first. We finally got this other one working. Fortunately, the fan's a bit noisy. I probably need to locate it somewhere different. So I can never remember the two types. This is the one, the BLF 8G 22LS160BV pair of finals in it, and I had the usual problems with the resistors in the bias circuit going open circuit, but that seems to be okay. Using quarter watt resistors in there, they're going to be taking any surge without a problem. Just thinking, I should, I think, have on the other camera. The thing obviously is in a box like that, and as usual I've gone for a box which is on the minimalist side, so it's a bit hard squeezing everything in, and it looks awfully like the other one in that the boxes came from the same source. It's a fan going up another notch. I read the temperature of the built-in I2C temperature sensor, and have an Arduino in there. I also have one of these little boards, which is a little thing for measuring current. It actually assumes that you've got a resistor in series. So I've got 2.004 ohm resistors, one on either side of a PCB like this. It measures the voltage difference, and then that gets converted into current, so I can actually read the current off the front. Shame with the flickering, it doesn't want to focus on that. But that took a while to get that up and running, but there we go. The other thing is the Winter Hill. I have commented before the difficulty of getting the 12-volt LDO regulators. Second supplier gave me a refund because they said they were out of stock. So I did exactly as you said, Mike. I just rearranged the pins on one of the other types of LDO ones that I had, and that's in. And the lid is now on the winter hill, and it's safely in its boxer. So that's enough for me this round. Go back to the other camera. So I think it's round to Roger G3 IUZ. I don't think I've met you on this net before, so hello Roger. So round to you, G3 IUZ with the group, GI 4DOH with a rather noisy fan which you must do something about.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you very much indeed for letting me join the net. I think I'm in, and I hope you're getting adequate audio. That's the one thing I haven't tried before, so. It's all a bit, as I'm sure all of you have found at the beginning, a bit hairy. So forgive me if this is a bit disjointed. After 68 years license, I finally got round to DATV, or amateur television. So for my shame, done most other things, but decided it was time to do something different, although to a degree it's a reversion to form, because in the 1950s I was engineer with the BBC television service, MCR10, mainly in the Midlands, but all over the country, of course, with the scanner, and 3.5-inch image orthicons and all that involved, black and white 405 and so forth. So not a complete stranger to television, but by gum, this has been challenging. It's kept the few remaining grey cells very preoccupied over the last 6 or 9 months, as I've tried to come to terms with the way you do things these days. And it's really quite gratifying to, I think, have achieved a degree of success. Both in terms of actually producing some pictures and getting them up to the satellite as well. I've never tackled anything beyond 77s before, so it's been a sort of double learning curve to cope with the video side and also with the whole business of beyond 2.4 gig and so forth. So anyway, that's I'll bore you with some old stories perhaps one day, but obviously not tonight. Just suffice to say, as you can probably see from the picture, I'm running the Portsdown 8, and a very big thank you to all of you amazing guys who've produced and perfected and developed all this. It's been a fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I've been watching the net now for, it must be almost a year, and gradually getting my head around what you get up to and what all the various nomenclature means and so forth. I'm still very far from au fait with it all, but I was very gratified this week to have finally got the IPTS working on the Portsdown. I really found that very difficult until I came across F1 EIP's software, and now I'm feeling a lot more happy about things. Anyway, that's enough for me. As I say, you probably gathered from the picture at the beginning. We're down in the West Country, in the beautiful cathedral city of Wells. There's only one other ATV station within RF range of me. I am a member of the 7 group, but their repeater is up at Bristol, and I'm the wrong side of the Mendits. I'm tucked right down in the shadow, so that's a bit of a frustration. So QO-100 has been a godsend, shall we say. So it goes, I think, to G8 GTZ. No, this is G3IUZ with the BATC net.
Ah, good. Well, first of all, Roger, excellent pictures from you. Really good to see you on, and yes, really good, and well done on the journey. It's as you say, it can be quite challenging with not just the RF, but the audio and the video and everything else to worry about. And we've had a few discussions actually within BATC, and we don't make it easy for people at the moment, and we're going to try and sort that out. There's an awful lot of information on the wiki and the forum, but there's just too much, and there's no easy routes for people like yourself to get in, and we recognise that now, and we're going to have to do some work to try and tidy it up and make it easier for people to understand what's going on. So there is an awful lot of information, but yeah. Anyway, news from Basingstoke, which is where I am. What's been happening? Well, yeah. Here's what I'll be doing. You can have a nice weekend read. That's the front cover of it, and you can probably read some of the content. And that portable shack looks very familiar, at least to me. So that will be out. I'll get the email done tomorrow, so we can do that. What's on the bench? What's on the bench is the 10 gigs. That isn't the KLB van. The KLB van doesn't have leather seats. Not that you can see the leather seats. So the die-cast box there is the 10 gig transverter, which is currently neutered. It's got a 5 watt PA in it, but it's currently neutered to run about 10 milliwatts because I drive the 47 gig transverter with it, and I've been just checking power outputs, etc. from down at the bottom of the picture is the contest rig, the big contest rig, which is actually on the cover of CQTV, because I had to drag that out to use tonight for the net, because I'm still suffering Pluto problems. So seeing as Colin's on, I thought I'd better show it in real life. That's the Langston that I built, which is the microwave transverter driver. And if you look very, you can't really see it, but on the back of it there's some tin foil from the kitchen. I'm trying to cue the QRM from the Pi. That's a bit of an uphill struggle. It really is. It really is hard work. The QRM is horrendous from that particular one. The one in the big metal box is tamer, but this one where the Pi and the screen is all in a plastic case is just terrible. So I shall keep working on it. I'm just wondering if I'm going to have to put it in another box. But the big metal one isn't so bad. Above it sits the casualty of today, which is the port stand I was going to use for tonight's net. It was working earlier. Colin G4AML saw me testing with it, and then it just failed, and it claims it can't find the Pluto. Plugged the Pluto into the PC and into the other ports down, and it was fine. So not sure what's going on there. Anyway, there we go. Yeah, 47 gigs, a couple of quick pictures since nobody's interested, but you can see them anyway. Went out with Dave G4FRE and we did some work, 66 kilometre path on 47 gigs, which is the equipment in the middle, and 76 gigs, which is the equipment on the right hand side. We worked a 66 kilometre path on narrowband both ways, and I received Dave on TV because he just runs much more power than I do. So, but it was, I think that's probably, we think that's probably a world record for 76 gigs. So we were quite pleased with our efforts for the day. That was quite good. Round to Bernie, I do believe. So if you're ready, Bernie, you can take it, and I'll pass it on to you. This is GTZ and the BATC net. Passing.
Okay, Noel, I think I've given that enough time. Just checking everything's working. I was rather surprised, was it last week or the last time I was on, things started to happen. I think I had a picture breakup and lack of processing power. So I'm trying to make sure that if that happens, I'm just wanting to see myself come up on the streamer. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'll go over to me. And good evening, by the way, to Brian and Roger and Colin. I've not worked any of you before, so it's nice to come across you. And unlike everybody else so far, I don't have an awful lot to say, but I have come on for a reason. And again, I'm just going to wait until I come up on this camera on the streamer, just to make sure the picture's stable. But there's a heck of a long delay there. Oh yes, there I am. So I'll try and monitor that. I'll just go back to the text, just make sure I'm not doing anything dreadful. Nope, that looks okay. Right, well, the thing I have to show today is this, and I have a picture of it. Let's I shall go over to a picture in a moment, because I don't think you'll get a very good view of that. Anybody into antique radios will probably recognize it as a low 3NF, which was a multi-valve, but I've got a better picture of that, which let me just bring this up, and you get a better idea of it from that. It's 3 triodes, 4 resistors and 2 capacitors, and if I didn't already say, it's from somewhere between 1920 and 1930, and owes its existence to the German authorities taxing radios by the number of discrete valves. So Lowe obviously decided they'd put as many as they could in one envelope. And there's some interesting things about it. I don't particularly want to bore people with that. And that valve is going to appear up in Finningley at the Finningley Club, so there'll be more data on that at a later date for anybody who's going up there. This has all come from G3KKD's estate. Let's go back to me. And Kevin has been down for the 4th or 5th time, and got nearly everything back up to Finningley or to Sandtoft that Ian had. And I've learnt one good thing that justifies my untidiness here. Ian was very, very tidy, and although he did appear to have quite a lot of components, with them being stored away very tidily, it was quite a shock to realise just how much he had when he started to take the shack apart. And Kevin has done many miles coming down and doing journeys with that, plus various people he knows taking the 60-foot mast back up to Santos, so that'll be yet another nice tower up at that club. And anybody who's never been to the Finningley Club, Cat, don't you dare jump up on the PC, which I know is what you'll do. That's it, you go out. It's a very worthwhile club to go to. I think most of you on here have been up there at some time or other. Right, I didn't take any notes. The picture looks stable, which I'm very pleased about. I did do some adjustments, so thanks for that obvious advice you gave me, Mike, the last time I was on. I should have guessed that I was overcooking the PC by doing rather strange combinations of picture size, and I seem to have cured that. Okay, so it goes on to Nigel next. Just go on to the card, I suppose, just to do things properly. So 2E0EHH, G4HJW. Oh, I probably won't come back on for the next over unless anybody has any comments they want me to make, because the low valve there is about the only thing I had to mention tonight. Over to you, Nigel, G4HJW.
Good evening, everybody, and
Good evening.
welcome everybody. For new timers, and like all the new users, nice to see on. I'm going to show you a picture, I think, before it stops. So if I do that, I know it's not very straight, but that's a potty. What I've done from last week. Now I'm receiving also, but it's not quite tuned in yet. So I don't know if I've got it too long or what, it's just needs adjusting, slight adjusting. That's the potty up with the rocket LMB on the end. So comments, and we've got any advice on how can I fine tune it, because obviously last week I couldn't receive from it, so we put the LMB on, oh god, got the lens on, and the rocket lens. So yeah, so comments on that. So that's about it from me for the moment for this first over. So I think I'm going to freeze this, I think. So I'll hand it over to Gareth, I think, G4XAT. You've got the microphone.
I have indeed got the microphone. Good. Thank you. G4XAT from 2E0EHH. Let's have a bit of me instead of test card. Here we are. Right, okay, well, a fairly busy week. Things I showed you last week. This is the finished bracketry for the nice short feeder for my big portable dish, and stuck in the end of it there is a It's not going to come out, but it's a Rexolite lens. Thanks to Neil for the Rexolite and Mike for the drawings. A couple of hours on the lathe produced that. It's all fairly fraught, just in case the tool dug in and turned it all into scrap. But it didn't, so that's good. Okay, I also showed this little thing last week, which had a BNCC coupling, I believe it was called. And while you were all chatting away, I thought if I unscrew that bit from there and then file off the centre pin, in fact I think I unsoldered it and then filed off what was left, and drilled a hole in it for the SMA centre, put a bit of solder in it, fluxed it all up and heated it with a hot air gun, and I think I've got a good 10 gig feed there. Whether it's a good match I don't know, I've got no gear to measure that, but I don't like chucking things away, so that's what I used. Good. Excellent film. Pleased with that. Yeah, Rexolite's funny stuff, isn't it? It's only super duper polystyrene, I think. But it machined quite well with a sharp tool with a lot of rake. Okay, I was on eBay and I spent 10 quid on what looked like a box of junk. Okay, that's what it says it is. And I thought, well, it's got one of these on it, which is a 10 gig isolator. So I thought it's worth it for that. It's got one of these on it, which says it's a coupler detector, and that bit of coax connects to a tiny little diode under there, which goes across two pads on the PCB underneath. So I guess it is indeed some form of coupler. It also had a directional coupler on it, coupling factor not known, but that's for 10 gig as well. And it had this, which was squashed flat as a double coil. I don't know, I guess it's probably a couple of meters of 3.5 millimeter rigid. So that'll come in handy. I'll save the rest for the next over, I think. Probably the best thing to do, and save waffling on. So stick it round to Colin, G4EML, to pick it up from G4XAT in the BATC net. Let's see if we can get this right.
Yeah, from G4EML. Looks like my level's down a little bit on the signal. I don't know why that should be. Hopefully everyone's still receiving all right. I've probably got a few spiders in the antenna or something, because it's down a little bit on the normal level, but hopefully everyone's receiving. Yeah, good evening all. Nice to come back on the net. Been a while since I've been on, so I thought I'd try and get on the air this evening because I've got a couple of things to demonstrate, and I've been working on a few little projects this week, so hopefully that should be worth doing. The main thing that's happened is I've got some printed circuit boards arrived the other day for my calibrator for the Bullseye LMB, so I've been playing with that, and I've actually got one of those built up now, which I think I can show a picture of if this works. Let's see if this works. Yep, that's a picture of the completed Bullseye LNB, a calibration adjustment device. It's running on a little Arduino Nano in the middle there that's just looking at the switches and generating some serial data. Then there's a very simple interface circuit in surface mount, and then that feeds off down the coax to the red port of the Bullseyes. There's 3 buttons on the bottom, which I shall try and point to. It's not easy with the delay, but there's a increment frequency, a decrement frequency, and a save frequency, so fairly simple. I'm getting a bit of a dropout on my
camera by the look of it. So apologies for that. I'm trying to use an iPad as the camera, and it's not got a great connection, I don't think, up here in the shack. Anyway, that's currently linked up to my LMB, Bullseye LMB, which is in the front room, sticking out of the window, the bedroom window. And if I go to this picture here, which I think you should be able to see, that's the spectrum coming down from the narrowband transponder at the moment. This is the centre beacon. And if you look, this is the uncalibrated LMB as it arrived from the. In fact, this is a prototype one that the designer sent me as an experiment, but it's exactly the same as a normal LMB. It's about it should be 750, and it's coming up at 761, so it's about 11 kilohertz high of the or the local oscillator is 11 kilohertz low of frequency, which means the output comes out at 11 kilohertz high. But what you can do with my little board that I've built is to press the buttons like this. Keep the button pressed and it zooms down the band to the correct frequency in the middle there, which is 750. This is showing the resolution. That's one click to the left and one click to the right. So it's about 200 hertz for each step of the calibration. So that's close enough to the right frequency. Press the center button to save it, and now that frequency is permanently set in the LMB now, as I can demonstrate by turning it off and on again. So it comes back to the new frequency settings, and it seems to hold quite well. It seems to stay within about 1 kilohertz for the last couple of weeks since I've had it down the garden, so it works quite useful. So quite happy with that. And if you do get lost and you lose track of what you were doing, you press all three buttons at once on the board, let it go, whoom, and it jumps back to the factory calibrated position, so you don't lose the factory cal. So I'm hoping to make use of that. I've forgotten which camera I'm on now. Let's come back onto that one. Let's come back onto the picture of the board. So I have got a few spares. I've got about 10 PCBs that I had made, because it was cheaper to get 10 made than to get 5 made, or almost cheaper. So I've got a few spares. I'm hoping to put together some simple kits if people want them. I wasn't going to include the yes, you could stock the PCBs in the shop. No, that's quite right. I'm quite happy to give you the design for that. The rest of it is fairly straightforward bits and pieces. I was going to do some short kits without the Arduino, because I don't particularly want to buy Arduinos and then just send them out to people. But I will put some more information up on the forum once I'm ready to go with that. But quite pleased. That's actually running on about 10 meters of cable, so you can remotely mount this. It's running down a bit of shotgun cable. Executed a 3 month. Most of it's documented already on GitHub, so it's not too difficult to put an article together for that. I must say thanks to the guy that gave me a lot of information, who was John from that's actually designed the LMBs. He's been very, very helpful, and surprisingly, it is actually an English company that does the design. It was on behalf of a Chinese company, but it's actually designed and prototyped in just outside Reading, I believe. So he's been very helpful to give us all the information on the protocols and that ever to program it. On the Langston, and if I get a chance on the next over, a couple of things on the Langston that so there we go. Right, that's enough from me. Right.
all a bit rushed as usual. Yes, evening Colin. Dave has very kindly slotted me in. Guess what, Mike? I was eating when we started here. All right, let's put that on instead. I think it's working, which is again quite good, because I've been playing around on 77s with it all earlier, so I'm glad that's working. Yeah, I don't think we've actually spoken on the TV radio, Colin, so nice to see you on. I think first time I've ever seen you on, and very good. Thanks, Mike, for the Coilcraft type. I don't know what happened about that echo, because I typed it in and nothing came out, so I typed it again and it came out twice. Bizarre. Anyway, yes, not got a great deal to report, other than this arrived earlier in the week, so I've put that on. I think I've told some of the guys about that, and I use Mike's offset clamp, and also his bullseye to patch feed adapter, which all worked very well. And there seems to be just enough height, Mike, as you eventually managed to extract from me the other day, to clear the feed arm and still get a reasonable signal from the beacon. I've got 1.1 meter dish and 9 dB MER, which is the most I've ever seen out of it, with or without a patch feed. It would. I'm going to have to knock up one of your calibrators, Colin. That's a very good idea. Right, I'll keep it short, because I didn't really see anything other than Gareth and his bed spring. That's what I thought you were showing at first, Gareth, till I turned the sound up. Very good. I missed the 10 meter PA demo. Yes, I did. It was Gareth, wasn't it? I don't know. Right, I'll put it round to you then, Dave. Sorry for the chaos. It's all my fault being late on parade. GHGKQ and the BATC net G4 Fox Kilo standing by.
Have I got video? Yes, I have. Good. Right. Good. Thanks for everybody on that. I'll show the demo first, and then I'll get into chatting. I've been doing some work on the Portstown receiver. One of the problems we had on using it for the net, when the receiver first came out, was if you switched between H.264 and H.265, you had to go back to receive and then go back to standby and go back to receive, because VLC wouldn't switch between the two. And luckily Martin G4FKK, whose picture you see on my Portstown screen there, was running H.264 and I'm running H.265. So the new facility is, if you touch top left corner here, it stops VLC, shows you all the parameters, and then restarts VLC, but it doesn't stop Minitune. So if you're using it terrestrially and you're having trouble locking and your receiver's almost locked up but VLC has crashed, you can just touch the top left of the screen and it will restart VLC for you. But leave the tuner running. So that's what top left of the screen does. For those of you who, so I'll do that once more. There you go. Goes through the parameters, and when it locks up, VLC starts. For those of you who aren't aware, you can also take a screenshot by touching the left side, and you'll just see the screen flash there. And of course, if you touch the right hand side, you get back to the menu. and it has changed in that what used to be the play with FFmpeg VLC button is now just receive. It seems to be the only receiver worth playing with. It is mechanised slightly different in this version, so I have still left play with FFmpeg VLC there until we're sure that it's the right thing to do. But I got rid of the old play with FFmpeg button because I wasn't aware of anybody using it. The other thing that this version of the receiver will do is where it displays the MER here and on the VLC overlay, when you have the VLC overlay on, it will now successfully display negative MERs. So if you're running FEC a quarter and you've got a lock at MER minus 1.5, instead of displaying MER 0, it does MER 1.5, MER minus 1.5. So that's out in a development version, and once I'm happy that it hasn't broken anything, I'll put that out as a full version. There are some other minor receiver improvements. Oh yes, I could show you some of those. Hang on. Config, you can set the tuner scan width. At the moment it's 50% of the SR either side there. The other thing you can set is the tuner timeout delay. That's 5 seconds there, 5,000 milliseconds. And if you run SR 250, it puts it up to 10, or it doubles it. And if you run SR 125, it doubles it again, just to help you lock in terrestrial. So I've been doing all sorts on that. Right, let's just put a caption up for a moment while I sort this camera out. I must get more than one camera going and go through my notes. Colin, the calibration for the bullseye looks good. Yeah, it'd be good to stock those boards in the shop. I'd certainly make one up because I've got a bullseye sat on the shelf here that I use occasionally. Really good work. Raspberry Pi QRM null, yeah, big problem. I've almost cracked it now, but it involves lots of metal cases and lots of metal strapping. Roger G3IUZ, I can honestly say that was the best first over I've ever seen on a QO-100 net. Really well done. Yep, we have got some issues with the wiki, trying to tidy it up, and I think I'm probably guilty on just chucking stuff on the wiki and the forum, and we'll work on that. The F1 EJP script you mentioned is really good, and I use that for these transmissions here. Brian, GW4KAZ, I think your pixelations are primarily due to using the encoder settings in DATV Express. You can actually use the F1 EJP script with DATV Express and get far better results. Mike 29 megs amp looks good. I know Arthur and Arthur G4CPE and Graham G3VZV were doing some 51 megs tests this afternoon, unsuccessfully unfortunately, but they were playing with that. So there's lots going on there. But as Noel says, much of the activity here has been on CQTV, and doing a bit of planning for my new 23 SEMS rack unit to go in the portable kit. Right, lots more interesting stuff to go, so back round to Mike, G0MJW and the net, G8GKQ.
Right, I forgot about that. Hopefully I'm back. G0MJW. Thank you, Dave, and thanks everyone for the net. Yeah, that was a really good first over. and yes, very good indeed. And sorry if I confused you, Richard, with respect to the wrong camera. I thought you were showing the wrong camera, but I think you were showing the one you intended to. But it wasn't quite clear at the time. That was all that was. Yeah, so Martin, just to show you very briefly, this was the system on the bench, the transverter, a little PA and the main PA. And what I did was I fired it all up. So there's all the test equipment there. And here is the live spectrum coming out of it now, transmitting about 40 watts or so from a bird through, well, measured on the bird through line. There isn't a low pass filter in it yet, but it's actually incredibly clean in terms of harmonics anyway. The only problem is, of course, the spectral spreading, but it's not too bad. But it's very dependent on the bias settings that you have and other things as well. So needs optimization, but it works. Not much else to add. So really good to see Brian. The Rexolite lens looks really well made, Gareth. That was something we were talking about in the week, I think. I think there's probably a business for someone producing those, actually. Nigel, your potty looks good. I wasn't quite clear as to whether you've extended the dish or not. The feed arm for the dish backwards a bit, because it looked like it was pushed out too far forwards. But of course, if you've moved the feed arm back, then that would be fine. So I think it probably just needs optimizing a little bit if you've done that, and then you'll get it right. But I'm afraid you just have to keep optimizing and testing and doing it over and over again. The MER of the beacon is a good way to measure it, to know you're in the right place. But it should work. It should work fine, and you're much stronger now than you were before. I'm not sure there was very much else. So let's go round to Brian. In fact, GW4KAZ, G0MJW.
From my GI4DOH with the group, so I hadn't been at the bottom of the chat screen there. I hadn't scrolled down from where I was, so I was caught unawares. It was only when we had the silence there I thought I better take a look. Yes, Mike, I probably was holding things up to the wrong camera there. I was okay on my preview screen. I could see exactly what I was trying to do without a problem. I'm still fairly new to this game, and I'm at the, so trying to watch what I'm doing, read what's on the screen, which I do occasionally if I've scrolled to the bottom and other things. So I'm still very much elf bits up. And the fan on this amplifier doesn't need to be running at that speed. The I2C sensor on the board is saying 40.5 degrees, so I don't think the fan needs to be running at that rate. So something for me to reprogram. I'm still working on the portable idea. I've done a little prototype for a quick release plate from my tripod, so I can have different configurations of things ready to put onto it. That's one little thing that's kept me busy. I just got Bernie and the valve viewer show, and I think the only thermionic device that I actually have in the house nowadays is actually a Yaesu monitor one of the things we used to look at the output from your HF rig as if it was going to make a scrap of difference to what you were doing. So it does have the things of having had a break from amateur radio for a couple of decades. I dumped a lot of stuff that I might never use again, but they were always nice to look at. The fans up to full speed again. And Gareth, you're still showing things that I know little about, but just know they're associated with parts of the frequency spectrum that I've never dared to go into before. But the future ahead of me and the rest. And Colin, that thing looks very interesting. I'm not quite looking for another project at the moment, but possibly sometime in the future. And the other thing there, Dave, thank you for reminding me that I have a Portstown 4 sitting here all ready to go, and I have the knocker and the mini tuner, so that's part of getting that together as part of the portable environment that I'm working on little by little, but slowly getting there. One other thing that I did get actually earlier in the week was this little satellite finder. I had one of the cheap and cheerful, I think, Matlin ones from decades ago, and it was pretty iffy, and certainly trying to look at it while you're up a ladder wasn't particularly safe. And the problem that I was having with pixelation on wet days on the yesterday channel, I was up the ladder today, up the dish, it was no movement brought any improvement, no rotation of the NMB brought any improvement, so it is as it is. I don't actually have a spare quad LMB, but I've actually got one on order to do a comparison just in case that was it, or maybe that's just how things are this far west and this far north. Maybe on really muggy days I'm not going to get a perfect signal. Certainly not losing much in a relatively short run of cable, that wouldn't be significant. But part of the justification of getting that is if I wanted to set up a QO-100 demo, more narrow bands than BATC at a club meeting or something, that would be very useful in trying to find the satellites compared with what else I've got. So that's about it from me. I think not a lot else. Just keep plodding on. Still pretty much daylight. I do need to arrange the studio so I don't have a window behind me sometime. So I'll pass it on to Roger again, G3IUZ with the group. This is GI4DOH.
Right, well, first of all, thank you very much indeed for all the kind words and remarks received, both through the chat and verbally. Very gratifying. Yes, I think I do have to confirm that it has been like chasing rabbits down a very complex warren, working my way around the wiki and various other bits on the forum and so on. Often one gets to the end of a page and then there's nowhere else to go. As one tries to sort of puzzle out the many mysteries of this this aspect of our hobby. However, we seem to have got more or less there. Just answer one or two quick questions. Yes, yes, that is rather substantial plumbing. That is a loop that is tunable. It's all computer controlled with stepper motors and so forth. And that's, I use that for whisper. I don't. I'm in a listed building here, in a conservation area. So what one can stick outside is very limited. One has to be extremely discreet. Nobody's complained about the 1.2 meter dish for the satellite yet. It is at the back of the house, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But I just use the loop on whisper. So the RF fields in the shack are not that high. Just a little bit more detail. The Portsdown 4. It's fairly obvious. You can see it just behind me there. That's got the Pluto in it, and I'm actually coming out of that at 70 sems because it's a long way down to the dish. It's about nearly 20 meters. So I go down on 70 sems and then into the box where there is a transverter up to 2.4 gig, and then an amplifier, and then that drives the final, which is one of the little Nokia, I think it's Nokia anyway, the ones that have been available every now and then from Europe. Managed to get hold of one and convert it as per the instructions found. Is it JTT, Jim? Is it Jim? Oh dear, my memory is not as good as it was. But anyway, you'll all know the thing that the piece of equipment I'm referring to. And the dish is 1.2 meters offset with potty. And on the receiving side, the ride, which I'm using. I'll perhaps next, I won't bore you with pictures tonight, but I'll perhaps show you some perhaps next week if I'm able to join in again. So once again, thank you to everyone on this net for all your expertise, for the generous sharing that you have made on the net and elsewhere, the BATC magazine and so on. Hugely grateful for that. And yes, greetings to Martin, G4FKK. I had rather gathered from previous evenings that he and I have roots in a once august and respected body. I was there in the 1950s, trained at Evesham, as I'm sure you probably did, Martin, and started life in the Midland unit with MCR10, 3.5-inch image orthicons until we moved to Gloucester Green, and we suddenly had 5-inch and the Mark II Marconi. But we all started with a D-rigged London MCR in the Old Midlands orchestra studio, all D-rigged next door to the Ambridge studio. I've got lots of old pictures which maybe I'll bore you with one day of life in the old days when it was analog, and we used a pair of 807s in push-pull to squirt the video signal up the twisted pair to the switching center, running about 100 watts up the BT twisted pair, or the GPO twisted pair as it then was. All exciting, all exciting stuff. So that's enough from me. Good night to you all. Thank you so much for letting me in. It's a great joy to be with you and a great privilege. So this is G3IUZ now signing with the group, because I will be watching for a little longer. And now then, who
Okay, brilliant. Oh, right, I've got a side conversation going on WhatsApp about Polish 24 gig transverters. One quick tip, Roger. I'm not sure if you do it, but the way we all manage to key our transmitters so quickly on the net is we leave our port downs running in transmit and then just key the PA, which means you've got instant transmit rather than waiting for a line countdown. And yes, rabbit holes is about right. I was having a look at a number of dead-end pages on the wiki today, and it's yeah. So we are working on it, and we will do something. And perhaps we'll use you as a test body when we've done it to see if you think it's any better. Right. If I show my good friends this arrived from Amazon today. So I think I need 2 3D printed parts, don't I? Yeah. So I've got a bullseye. I do get an MER of about 10 something on the 1.2 meter, so it's not too bad. But it will be interesting. It will be interesting to try this, and so interested in Colin's little board as well. And yes, we'd be happy to put those in if you just send me the Gerbers. I'll get some made at PCBWay. If you can put the BATC logo on, so much the better. But if not, don't worry about it. We'll see how it goes. But it certainly looks very interesting project, and I think there's quite a few people have got these, and probably more people would if we do that. Richard, just one comment about your portable system. This is what I did. This is a ports down 4 with Pluto in a die-cast box. There's also a mini tuner receive in there, and there's actually a 1 watt PA for VHF and UHF, so it's primarily a microwave transverter driver is the plan. But it is, I've used it as a portable system, and so it's pretty neat. The big issue is the QRM, and I remembered when I saw the picture that Dave built his into a metal box, and I think that's what I might have to do. Currently that screen is in a plastic box. If I just do this, you'll see I've been messing around with tinfoil on the back and stuff. On microwaves we tend to use 2 meters for talkback, and to be honest, this just kills talkback. So we're going to have to do something about it, and I'm thinking either to leave the bottom die-cast box and build the screen up in one going vertical, or rehouse the whole thing in another die-cast box that will take everything. The knob here, by the way, is an Amazon CNC controller rotary encoder. I think it cost me £6 off Amazon. Very nice feel to it. So yeah, it's good. So I wish you well, Richard. Right, don't know if Bernie's going to have another go. Presume he does. Right, yes. No, a second die-cast box would probably work. Yes, I know it makes it so big, but I'm thinking a vertical one screwed on top of the one I've got. I think that would certainly quieten it all down. As I say, I've managed to tame the big box, but not the small box. Right. Okay, and where's it coming from? The screen and the Pi generally. The screen ribbon cable isn't helpful. Earthing the USB sockets makes a big difference. So yeah, it's all over the place, to be honest. So yeah, that's right. Trouble is, if you put the screen in the box, you can't see it, Mike. Right. What was I going to say? Yes. And Express. The Express software on a PC can take IPTS in, I think, can't it? Anyway, there we go. Round to Nigel. 2E0EHH to take it. Very good night from me. G.
Good evening once again. 2E0EHH in the BATC net. All comments taken on board, and thanks, Mike, for your comments about it's now just slightly I forget what I'm looking for now, but getting the LMB and the potty squared away into, like, if you could just titivate, I can't remember the word I was going to say, but you all know what I mean. Adjusting the potty, yeah, because I'm receiving okay. Well, just keeps going in and out, but it's MER is nowhere near. I think it's down to 5, and that's on the main beacon. The beacon at 1.5, 1.5 MER or 5. I used to get 8 and 9. MER, so I know I've got it. It's somewhere. It's out of kilter. Anyway, I won't keep it because I say I'm not work. It's not running as optimal. Optimal. That's the word I'm looking for. Mike, I tell you one thing about it. Tell me optimal. Yeah, just trying to get the optimization from the pottery and the LMB. But yeah, we'll get it there slowly. Does it? Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now because I don't know how long. Just to rest, Mike. Dave, sorry, the actual frequency or volts on the on the heat of the amp, it were at 900, so that's around 32 cells for power supply. So anyway, that's got a bit cooler as well, so it may stop. Anyway, enough of me waffling on. Thank you very much, everybody, for the net. Have a good week, safe week, and we'll talk again next Thursday. So I'll hand it over to Gareth, G4XAT, and the BATC net. Good night.
Jolly good. Okay, thanks very much to 0EHH from G4XAT and the net. Okay, pictures time. This is a forming tool that I made this week to turn 22mm copper into waveguide 16. It's not original particularly, it's a copy from volume 3 of the Microwave Handbook. Made out of what I had to hand, and I thought, why not use some studding and just screw the whole thing together to the desired degree of forming. Works a treat. The end result looked like that. Annealed it on the gas stove when Jane wasn't looking, and job's a good one, as they say. Okay, get rid of that picture and show you that one instead. Apologies, it's on its side. I haven't worked out how to turn them around yet in OBS. It's the right way up in the real world. Just sizing it a bit, bear with me. Okay, transition to that. It's one of them super luxe oldie worldy surveyor's tripods. I got given it in 1986. It extends up to about 8 foot. Actually, it's 3 legs within each other, and of course it's a tripod. And it adjusts in almost every imaginable dimension plus another one. And though that's set up to 65 centimetre offset dish, set up for terrestrial use. And then I thought, I wonder if I can tip it up and use it on Q-100. I don't suppose it's much cop for DATV, but it might do for narrow band. And indeed you can, by carefully positioning the one of the legs and then tipping the whole lot over a bit more. You can actually get the dish upright. So that's quite good. Now what else have I got? Right, this is the last little bitty. I showed you this board last week, I think. It's a B-Sky B LNB giblets. Now the circular hole has got a feed probe on it. So on the other side of the board I sweated on an SMA and then put a coupling capacitor, which I robbed from somewhere else, between the centre pin and the probe. So that's the RF in, and then it progresses through 3 devices round through that comb filter on the right hand side, and then it went into a mixer, which on the left of the SMA was fed by the DRO, which I pulled off the board and removed the bias to the oscillator chip and soldered on another SMA. So I've got a 3-stage amplifier on 10 gig. Needed the lid putting back on to keep it stable, and I think it seems to work, but as soon as I switch everything on, bar a bare Pluto in the shack on 10 gig, the SDR overloads, or rather the LNB overloads. Doesn't seem to matter if I wrap it up in human flesh or silver foil. It's tenacious stuff, it seems, 10 gigs. And Richard, I had no idea I'd ever end up playing on 10 gigs this year, but things have a way of just sort of happening. And a chance browse on the internet showed that something I bought 18 months ago could actually be used with relative ease, based a bit on my experiments on 5.7 gigahertz, which was just connecting things together in a bit of a wing and a prayer. That's still work in progress, but I've got the 5th harmonic of the Pluto and it works across the shack. So finally, this is another eBay junk purchase. I took a punt on this. I thought it was sold as a filter of some sort, and I thought it looks like an interdigital to me. I thought it's either 70 sems or maybe 2 meters or whatever, but it's certainly adaptable. It's got 5 rods inside and an in and an out coupling loop. That bit's all very conventional, but what's strange is it's got this additional link. I don't know how that works or what it does, so I'd be interested in your opinions on what the earth I can do with that. If I can turn it into a really narrow band 2 meter filter, that'll be nice. Okay, my fan's just speeded up, which tells me that's enough for today. So I shall wish you all well until next week, and pass it round to Colin. So G4 EML to pick it up, 7-3s all from G4XAT. Good evening.
Okay, from G4EML. Okay, fine. We didn't get a picture of that filter, Gareth. I think you didn't switch over to the to the right camera at the end, so you stayed on the LMB image, so we didn't see a picture of the filter in the end, but maybe you'll pop up and show that another day. Yeah, it looks good. Those older LMBs were quite nice because they were fairly well laid out and fairly easy to modify. So you could quite often chop sections out of them or rearrange things and make them do all sorts of things they weren't intended to. It's a little bit more difficult on the modern ones because they're a bit more compact, and especially with things like the synthesizer LMB, they're a bit more difficult to play with. One thing you might want to do if you're feeding that from the Pluto, you'll pretty much definitely want a filter of some sort in, something like a little pipe cap like that, on the input of that amplifier, because otherwise you're hitting it quite hard with 2 gigs, the fundamental. So you're hitting that first FET quite hard with 2 gig content. Although there's fifth harmonic 10 gig there's still an awful lot more 2 gig. So you need to filter that out really. But if you take that out, you can you might find that it doesn't overload so much. Yeah, okay, Noel, on the bullseye, yes, they do seem to work quite well. If you've got a good LMB as it is, a good octagon or something, they're probably no better, but they seem to be very good as a starter device, and I certainly gained a couple of dBs in MER when I fitted mine. 2 gigs doesn't get through the waveguide. That's right. If you feed it with if you feed waveguide into it, you can certainly filter the 2 gigs out. If you use a bit of waveguide on the input, it would do the same thing as a pipe cap. I've forgotten what I was saying now. Yes, the LMB, it works very well as it stands, and probably for DATV you probably don't need to adjust it. But for those people that want to use it on narrowband, it's nice to get it a bit closer to frequency, and especially if you're going to use it as a portable receiver or something, it's nice to know roughly where you are frequency-wise. What else was I going to comment on? I've got a few notes here. Gareth, that big long coil of coax that you showed before, I think that's probably an attenuator, I would think. Or some sort of phase shifter, although it's a bit too long to be just phase shifting at 10 gigs. I suspect that they needed a couple of dBs attenuation, and that was the way to achieve it. So it was probably a fairly consistent and an easy attenuator to set up. Yeah, it might be a delay line, Mike, but it seemed a bit long for 10 gigs. That length is a lot of wavelengths, isn't it? So it could be used for anything. Some of those things were quite strange designs. I know, having worked for Deckers for a while, we worked on some very similar stuff to that, and some of it was quite crude by modern standards, but it worked at the time. One thing I was going to show, which I mentioned earlier, was this. I've been doing a little bit of work on the Langston. I don't believe that. Having cut to the Langston picture, it immediately stops up now. It's sort of working, maybe. I think my Wi-Fi to the iPad is not very good, unfortunately. I was going to try and demonstrate the mod I'd put in to do the transmit power source. Now when I go to transmit, you get a spectrum on the transmission and a little TX level bar up in the top left hand corner. I think you might be able to just about see that, although it's breaking up a little bit, I think. Apologies for that. So I'm working on that, and I think that will be a useful addition. And also done a few mods to the beacon mode as well. Let's go back to the other camera, because I think trying to use the iPad in the shack with all this 2.4 gigs around is probably not working that well. Yeah, I need to use 5 gigs for the iPad, but it's not very strong in the shack, so it's all very complicated. I need to get another webcam, really. I see the price of the Logitechs is starting to drop again now, so it might be worth getting another Logitech camera. Right, I think that's all the comments for now. I will try and get the board's data to you, Noel. I don't really want to get involved in selling the boards myself, although I've got a few that I will sell, the few that I had made. But I think if the if the BATC is willing to stock them, then I'm quite happy to do that, and I'll try and get a BATC logo on there if I do that, of course. I need to actually modify the file slightly anyway, because I've added a little bit to it for final release. A slightly different design to the one I had made, so I've got to regenerate the gerbers, but it won't take long to do that. Rightio, that's enough from me. I'll put it round to Martin, and very good night, very good evening to everybody else. G4FKT to take it, G4EML.
That's changed again. Oh, that's too much. Come along. Behave yourself. Yes, G4EML, G4FKK are returning. That's better. Sorry, I was fiddling about with power levels and things. Oh, well, that was all very interesting. And Dave, you've obviously been busy as usual on the ports down, and I guess that'll be out soon, and with all the new switching arrangements, I guess. So that's very good. Mike, that was a nice, I thought it was pretty clean signal you got there on 29 megs. I was going to ask if it's actually going out at the moment. I don't think on 10 meters at this time of night I'll see anything from you, but I can probably, oh no, can I lash up 10 meters quickly? No, probably not actually. Not without your transverter, that would be easier. Yeah, it looked very good, and thanks for the type of coils. And oh, Richard, yes, where's my one? There you go. They're rather wonderful little things, these, aren't they? But Gareth discovered the other day, Gareth's got one of those as well, and discovered that you do need to keep them topped up, because just when you actually need one, you switch it on, the battery's flat. So and I found exactly that the other day. Roger, G3IUZ, very nice to see you for the first time, Roger. And I started to get all nostalgic at the end there. I didn't join the BBC till 1980, so I was on the tail end of the good old days, although we did have some good times. And they'd still got valve line amplifiers in the London control room, so a couple of which I removed when they were getting rid of them, putting transistorized ones in instead. Got quite a nice mic amp actually, a valve one from control room. And I did a little bit of work once up in Pebble Mill, but whether you may have been there before Pebble Mill, I guess, not sure. And I wonder if you know Dave Pick, G3YXM. It's quite a good friend of mine. And I spent most of my career, I started off in research department and then ended up in radio. So I spent most of my life doing radio. I did a bit of TV in Cardiff, but that was it. Noel, that knob on your Langstone was very impressive. I have I've got a question for you actually, Colin. I hope you don't mind. It's just a so I've modified my Langstone stroke ports down to use an Arduino Micro to do the switchery pokery instead of a mouse, with an Arduino which does other switching and voltage monitoring. Due to the terrible lighting in here, you can't really see that, but anyway. But one thing I noticed at the weekend, which has never struck me before, Colin, is the RIT. This is probably deliberate, it's probably as the composer intended. But if when you put the RIT in and tweak it, what I would expect is when you press it again, you'd think it would go back to what it was before. It will do if you press 0, obviously. But I wonder if that's what you meant it to do, Colin. I'm sure you probably did. But I was trying to listen to 2 stations, and it would have been nice just to switch it in and out. Not fussy though. And yeah, the knob on my one, Noel, is one of those horrid clicky cheap ones from eBay. So they wear out very quickly, surprisingly. Yes, eBay punts are all very well, Gareth. I took one of those on the chap selling 5 different transistors, one of which was MRI 186 and the 2170. I can't remember now, but you got 5 for £8 or something. And this is what arrived, which is a very small jiffy bag, and inside it, ta-da, was an empty anti-static bag. So eBay are trying to get the money back for that. Right, okay, well that'll do for me, I think. Thanks for the net. Nice to see you, Colin, and you, Roger. Nice to see you again, Nigel, by the way. A terrific signal you're getting in these days, so that's good. Right, back round to you, Dave, I think. Let me just quickly, is there anyone else's? The RIT does do what you... Well, there we are. If that's what the composer intended, Colin, I'd leave it at that. Right, G8GKQ. This is G4FKK signing out from the BATC net. Thanks for running it again, Dave, and see you all next week. G4FKK off and clear.
G4FKK and the net, G8GKQ. Good, muted that. Right, well, good to see those improvements from Langston, Colin. There's lots of little things you can put into these. People keep wanting more bits for Portsdown. Need to have a look at your code you use for controlling the I2C switch unit, and maybe put that into Portsdown. Gareth and I have been discussing that. One improvement you might make to your little 10 gigs preamp there, Gareth, is to improve the comb filter. I think you'll find that that filter probably cuts out most of the 10 gigs. And what I've done in the past with those comb filters is just lengthened the elements very slightly with a very thin bit of wire, about 0.5 millimeter at each end, and that decreases the loss at 10 gigs. But I think you've probably got enough gain there anyway as the thing hoots. And anyway, Nigel, I forgot to mention your signal is even stronger than I've ever seen it, so you're really getting there. I'm really impressed with that. Roger, yep, great to see you. I take it you're in touch with what Brian is doing with MCR21. Seems to be making reasonable progress with that now. There's another update and see the latest CQTV. I think that's about it for me. So thank you all for all the interesting stuff. I'll close the net now, but pass transmission over to Gareth to show us the missing picture. G4XAT and the closed net G8GKQ.
Right, here we are. That's the link I was talking about. It goes from cavity 5, I suppose, from cavity 2. Other than that, it just looks like a 5-pole into digital. Lovely bit of gear. I mean, not silver plated, so I suspect it's not UHF or above, but it might make a really nice keep the rubbish out of DATV on 2 meters. So tell me what you think, folks. And 7.3s again. I'll try and get it right one day. I think that was okay. See you all.
Well, good night, everybody.